Very proud of you guys. I'm very happy to be here with you today. This is a historic thing that those of you who have put in any kind of time or effort or resources into helping organize or to spread the word or to actually physically being here or lending support in any kind of way, whether it's moral or whether it's your time or whether it's your energy or, like I said, spreading the word, all of those things are very important, and you ought to feel very, very good and proud of what you're doing. I just want to say a few words because I know that when we get in these situations, this kind of thinking and this kind of work is not popular right now in our generation. I'm older than you guys, but I still, you know, I still feel young. And a lot of the people that I work with are, you know, high school age on up to my age, which is so. So I just want to talk about some of the pushback that we get when we do work like this. A lot of people in our country, in our society, we have a very non-historic and ahistorical understanding and approach of these kind of things. And that's by design. There's certain things that we're not taught about, or we're taught about them in such a small way that we're inoculated, so that when we hear certain terms, when we hear of certain concepts, we've been given small doses, small, insignificant, safe doses of those things. So we say, yes, I know about that. But when we really start to think about how much do we really know about the history of this country, this history of people coming together and working for the common good, for the public good, over the course of human history, but particularly in our country, we have a very, very shallow understanding of that. And so our classmates and ultimately our countrymen are not going to always understand what it is inside us that's making us do what we do when we come together and when we start to push back and demand for some changes to be made. And one of the books that even hit me, I didn't graduate from high school, I didn't go to college. So that's one thing that I envy about you guys a little bit, is that you actually have time in your life to just sit down for a minute. And I know you're busy, I know you're working, I know it's very stressful, and I know there's a social thing and all that stuff. It's not I probably romanticize it because I didn't get to do it. But to actually have time to sit down and figure out psychologically and philosophically what it means to be a person in this society and engage, you know, with the people against the power structure. So one of the books that really touched me was The People's History of the United States, where Howard Zinn masterfully, funded by the GI Bill, went in and made an entire legacy, showed the entire legacy of how literally everything good for the people, for common everyday working people, for people of color, for women, for the people that are marginalized in society. Every single good thing that's happened in the history of this country was because a group of people, and not a big group of people, not necessarily a powerful group of people, but a group of sincere, genuine people who were willing to sacrifice, stood together and forced those things to happen. I think about, whether we're talking about workers' rights, whether we're talking about the Black Liberation Movement, whether we're talking about the fight for women's rights, whether we're talking about GLBTQ rights, every single group of people, and this includes now homeowners' rights, workers' rights, you know, students' rights, all of these things, they all happened because people were willing to sacrifice. And they're not necessarily experts, and they're not necessarily anybody special, or anybody prominent, or anybody famous, or whatever it is, but common people were really willing to make those sacrifices. And so the message is that we have the right as students, you guys have the right as students to have a say in the way that you and your parents and whoever is funding your scholarship and the grants or whatever, that literally millions of dollars are going through the hands of this institution. And that's because they're supposed to be educating you so that you can become pillars and builders in our society. Let's not forget why we're here. Football is cool, all of that other stuff is cool, but what we're really supposed to be doing is educating leaders for the future to build this country. And so what you're doing is exactly what you're supposed to be doing. Students stood up, that's right. Students are the reason that students were the bulk of the energy in the civil rights movement. Students ended the war in Vietnam effectively. Students have done a whole lot throughout time, and so this is a part of legacy that you guys are adding on to, that you're part of, that even if other people, even, you know, parents might not understand, classmates not understand, you might got a stubborn boyfriend or girlfriend or something that just thinks you're bugging, because they see what you're doing as just this one thing. So we need to educate them. We need to speak to them. We need to speak to them lovingly, to understand that this person thinks the way they think because they were engineered to think that way. They were engineered to believe this idea that the people in power give us, that we ought to just go along with what's going on, and we ought to just do a little charity whenever we can. But in terms of actually people standing together to challenge the authorities that are supposed to be serving us, these men and women that work in this building that make six-figure salaries, all of them are doing that because they have the charge of leading you and educating you. So they work for you. They work for you. And so as your employees, for you to demand that what they do with the power, influence, and frankly money that they have, that you're completely within your right to do that. The same way that if you work at a job and they send you out with some money and they give you some money and they go out and get some, we need some so-and-so for the job. You come back, you bring that to them, and you bring them a receipt, and you hand them what you bought, and you hand them a receipt, and you're accountable for the money that you're given, if it's $100 or whatever it is. This is that exact same scenario, but the difference is that you are giving these people millions and millions of dollars that go through their hands. So we're in solidarity with you. There's people all over the country and around the world who know what you are doing right now. And the people that have been engaged and been involved, you know who you are. We don't have to say your names. You know who you are. We're going to go inside now, and we're going to be led. I'm going to follow along with everybody else, with the leadership that's been working so hard to make this thing happen. And we're going to go in and make our voices heard. And I love you very much, and I appreciate you guys being here. Stay at it, we're off it, put people over profit. Stay at it.